This is Carson Edwards from the Boston Celtics, and you're listening to the Boiler Breakdown podcast hosted by Tanner Lee, Evan Webb, and Andrew Eiler.
And like Boiler legend and current Boston Celtics guard Carson Edwards just said, you are listening or watching the Boiler Breakdown podcast. I'm Tanner Lee, joined by Evan Webb and Andrew Eiler. Well, boys, we continue our series of going back and reviewing the Purdue football eras that we can remember. So we covered Joe Tiller.
Kind of remember.
For the most part.
Certainly don't want to remember.
I think blocked out of our minds is what I think.
And then that's a good intro here because we covered Danny Hope last week. So that leads next up the era from 2013 to 2016, which most Boilermaker fans try to forget or have forgotten, the Darrell Hazell era. Oh boy. Perfect timing there, Webby, as he cracks open. What are you drinking tonight?
It's called 2x4. It looks like it's a double IPA from Melvin Brewery. The slogan is "Don't Hate Party," and it's 9.9%.
Very fitting for tonight's podcast. You're going to need all 9.9% of that alcohol, I think, to get through this. A lot of bad memories we're going to be talking about. But here we go. I guess first off, and I'm really interested in your guys' answers here. When you hear of the Darrell Hazell era at Purdue, what comes to mind?
Honestly,
don't hold back.
What it makes me think of is a really bad time to be a student, because that was going into my junior year, and that was, going into that year, we had optimism of football. We just come off 6 wins, new coach, energy, and all that. But then we had what we had with the 1-11 season. Plus, then you also had the basketball season that we had, where it was just last place, and just really sucked.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was there too as a student with you, at least for a couple of those years, and it was the worst time to be a student for Purdue athletics. But how about you, Andrew?
Mine, it was always just like a letdown. It was, I remember we talked about it when Hazell was hired. We were fairly happy. I felt like I was like, man, Ohio State guy, Jim Tressel, loved, good recommendation. Came from, didn't he go to the Fiesta Bowl with Kent State right before?
Not the Fiesta Bowl. It was actually the GoDaddy.com Bowl.
Okay, it was a good. I thought it was.
But they made the MAC championship.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was
went 10-2. So
I had maybe I was higher expectations, but it was a lot of all right, maybe this is the week. It's gonna, and then middle of the second quarter, I'm like, I'm gonna go do something else.
That pretty much sums it up for me. It's like, okay, this is the week it's gonna click, or I saw something a little positive the week before, but it was nothing ever clicked. Just ended up not being the right fit. No consistency, of course. And we'll talk about some of that. I mean, some of those games, you would see Purdue shock everybody, be competitive against a team that should have blown their doors off, to come back against a very average team next week and get absolutely killed. It was there was no consistency from week in, week out. And what I thought was a very professional staff coming in compared to the Hope staff, a staff that was getting paid a lot better.
Yep.
Purdue up
we're paying a coach like $2 million. It was like, holy crap, we're actually paying for a coach, and that was reason for excitement, and just robbery at that point.
Yep, but Darrell became the coach on December 5th, 2012. He was officially announced. So Purdue was actually preparing to play in the Heart of Dallas Bowl against Oklahoma State with the Danny Hope staff and players when he was announced. But let's go back a little bit. What do you guys remember about the head coaching search that Morgan Burke put on there?
I honestly don't remember a ton. I wasn't really more when we talk, going into the Brom era, I definitely paid a lot more attention to that head coaching search. But for this one, I felt like I just maybe don't remember, maybe just being a student and having other responsibilities at the time. I feel like I didn't really pay attention too much to it. I also just didn't know really where to look at the time. I wasn't a subscriber to Golden Black, so it's kind of whatever I was getting was probably getting from you, Tanner, or whatever the various blogs that we follow were posting. But I don't remember much of the coaching search at all.
I don't really either. I'm kind of there. I'm assuming it would have been kind of similar to what it was when it was Brom 4 years later with Brock Spack. The guy at Air Force. I can't remember his name.
Troy Calhoun.
Yeah.
Troy Calhoun. I don't remember. Was he one? I don't remember. Tanner, you probably know more than we do. But
Well, when it comes to the Hazel, and when he ended up getting the job, when it came to the coaching search, yeah, I do remember it pretty well. I was still manager at the time.
Wait, wasn't what's his freaking face?
Yeah, there wasn't choice
Jones.
number one. Butch Jones was Purdue's number one.
Oh
choice.
yeah,
Butch Jones was flown into Purdue's airport, and
yes,
Mike Carmen and some other reporters were caught kind of sneaking out, hiding out at the airport for him to come in. And so he was on campus and interviewed for the job, but he ultimately turned Purdue down. Just didn't think it was a good enough job. And Butch was known for using it as leverage. I mean, he was at Central Michigan, then he went to Cincinnati. He was looking to take that next step. And ultimately, he turned Purdue down. Looked like he was going to be Colorado's coach. Hung them on for about 2 weeks, like he was going to accept the job, or maybe not 2 weeks, but a little while. And then when Tennessee came open, they offered him. Boom, he was to Tennessee. Failed miserably there. And now, at least last year, he was assistant at Alabama staff. I don't know if he still is or not. But
I totally spaced that.
Yep. Butch Jones was the number one choice.
Because
now, was Darrell number two? I don't know. I really don't know.
You've told us, wasn't Paul Christ, or was that for the
That
hope?
was the hope.
Yep. This coaching, the last 15 years of Purdue football has just blended all together for me as far as timelines and these mediocrity.
Dave Doran was a name thrown around there from Northern Illinois. He was already accepted the NC State job.
Yeah, I forgot about him. That was who I wanted. I felt like he was the one that I remember wanting, actually, now that you say that name. I was okay with Hazell at the time.
They were the hot commodities out of the MAC. Those two were the Northern Illinois beat Kent State in the MAC championship. They both had really good years. Those are the two hot commodities. Sonny Dykes was another name out there. He ended up going from Louisiana Tech to Cal. He's now at SMU. There was a couple other names, but I know there were some Purdue fans that wanted Jared Parker to stay on as coach, which he did an all right job as the interim head coach. I mean, he went 0-6, but
they played harder. It looks like
at least. But he wasn't fit or ready to take over. So so they got Darrell Hazell, like I said, on December 5th, 2012. And here is the cover of Gold and Black. It says, "Fresh start, Purdue taps Hazell as new leader." And I think everybody was excited. He kind of won everybody over in the press conference. He was real professional. Seemed like he had a plan. He was going to run things kind of like the way they ran at Ohio State. So, I thought the recruiting was going to take off to the next level. And
didn't he have something to call? I don't know if it was called the playbook or like being like an A player, where it was like a massive. There we go. Look at that. We didn't plan this at all.
The A player's manual. Yep. Every player literally got a book that kind of laid the foundation of the program out. And he came up with the motto, "No brick higher."
One brick higher.
What?
I mean, it ended up it was no brick higher. You're correct.
Yeah,
that's a better way to say
no
it.
brick higher.
There's no bricks higher in those 4 years.
Which was kind of a cool backstory. That tied into Purdue's history there.
It sounded like, and then we talked about this before. I mean, like the kind of pep rally things that they tried to get people excited, and he tried to get the students more involved and make Ross 8 a big time thing. And
I remember for a basketball game, right after he was hired, he came because before every game, Purdue students, obviously we line up a lot much earlier than the general public, and he came to before. I don't remember what game it was. We probably lost, but he came to a game and hung out with the students for 20 minutes, just kind of shaking everybody's hands. I think he might have brought pizza. I remember I got to shake his hand, and it was pretty cool at the time because everyone was super excited about it. So he definitely, like you said, Dan, he definitely won people over at the start.
Yeah, and I think the game he got introduced was against Michigan State, if I remember correctly, when Gary Harris went off. But he literally got introduced, came out, waved, and that was it. There was no speech or anything, which a lot of other programs would do. But yeah, he won everybody over from the start, but it didn't last very long. But he did sign his first recruiting class in 2013, was ranked 61st by 24/7 Sports, 56th by Rivals. So not bad for a class he didn't have a whole lot of hand in, really. I mean, he kind of just got him signed on the dotted line and kept most of them.
Was it last in the Big Ten? 13th in the Big Ten?
I didn't even look that up.
That's what 247 says, 13th. I don't know.
You can see the whole list up there on the display, but some of the guys I wrote down that contributed: Dalen Dawkins, who was an early contributor at running back, ended up transferring to Colorado State. Evan Panfield, D'Angelo Yancey, Leroy Clark, Danny Iwichiku, Austin Logan, Jacob Pogel, David Yancey, Danny Etling, DeJuan Hunt, just to name a couple.
Keontae Green was in that one, didn't he? He had some moments. The running back.
I think he barely touched the field. He was a high recruit, but I don't know.
He had a good game in there.
That's written down. I don't think he really ever.
Okay.
I do know after his first year, he came back very heavy the next year and never really.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You know that. So going into the spring, it says leading the way, Henry earns chance. So Rob Henry finally gets his chance to be quarterback after it looked like he was going to be the quarterback going into the 2011 season, then tore his ACL and never really got an opportunity behind Turbush and Marv. And then here's another image that says getting after it. Boilermakers conclude competitive spring drills. So, yeah, going into the 2013 season, Evan, you were at the opening game. It was at Cincinnati, a very, very hot game, if I remember correctly.
It was insanely hot. Yes, it was.
Long story short, Purdue hung in there for a half and then got just massacred in the second half. Final score ended up being 42-7.
Yeah.
What was it? What was all our eggs are in this one basket right here?
That was a couple years later than the game.
I swear that was Cincinnati. Man.
No, it was Marshall in 2015.
That's right.
Game. But
similar.
I remember feeling after the Cincinnati game pretty got my hopes up, up, and then we got blown out. But I was also like, okay, first game, new offensive system, John Shupert at coordinator. Tiller lost his first game. There's plenty of time. So I try to keep myself motivated. Then week 2 rolls around. Indiana State comes in. And if it wasn't for a late Ricardo Allen pick, we probably lose. And we win that game 20-14. Then I'm like, we got to win. But I knew it was going to be a tall task with number 21 Notre Dame coming into town the next week for a night game. Prime time on I don't know if it was ESPN or ABC. It was one of the two. I remember breakfast clubbing that morning for that game.
That was the week I turned 21.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
So,
it was. Breakfast club was a lot of fun. Game was not.
Did you make it to the game? 8 p.m. game.
I did. I was feeling pretty awful by about 8:30. So.
Yep. Yeah, and Purdue actually played really well this game, hung in there for a majority of the game, had to lead for a little while, ended up falling short, 31-24. But I remember feeling good about that game. I went back to my apartment, was talking to my roommates. I'm like, yeah, we're 1-2, but we're starting to show signs of progress. Like, I think we're going to get this thing on the right track. Boy, was I wrong. The following week, we went at number 24 Wisconsin. Surprise, surprise, lost 41-10. Then we returned home to play a Northern Illinois team that ended up being a BCS team, but we didn't know that at the time. Lost 55-24.
Didn't Northern Illinois have a receiver that played for CMA?
Juwan Rasmussen, yeah. He's still playing actually in the CFL right now.
That's cool.
I believe he got a touchdown against Purdue that game.
Probably.
Wouldn't surprise me. Now, Evan, I think it was the next week, but do you remember when Rob Henry was replaced by Danny Etling? Was it this game or the following week?
I don't remember. I honestly my only memory of Henry being the quarterback is against Cincinnati. That's the only memory I have.
I think it was the following weekend against Nebraska home, which Purdue lost 44-7.
Yeah.
But I mean, it started setting a trend there with that Wisconsin game. Blowout.
So I found the box score for that. Wait, which game do you think it was, Tanner?
I thought it was Nebraska.
So in that game, Rob Henry was 0 for 1 and Danny Etling was 14 for 35.
Okay, so it must have been the game before against Northern Illinois because I don't know why Henry would throw one pass then yank him.
Yeah.
Because he didn't get
hurt. You sure he didn't get hurt? Against Northern Illinois, Henry was 5 for 16, Etling 19 for 39, 241, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks.
Henry was 5 for what?
16.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he was pulled, and he never saw the field again. Quarterback, they switched him to safety for the rest of the year, and that's probably why.
Right.
Yeah, I knew he played safety, but I forgot that it was. I didn't know he switched like mid-season.
Yep.
Gosh.
So then we went to Michigan State and lost 14-0. So I don't remember anything about that game. I do remember this next game, and number 4 Ohio State came in, and I remember this was the first Purdue football game I ever left early.
I did not.
0.
I did not. I had a really bad problem with staying for these massacres.
I thought you went with my parents and I to Hunter's Pub, and you left.
Maybe
early.
we did. Maybe because I had to. If my ride was leaving, yes, I had to.
Yeah.
I just remember the Wisconsin game down a couple years later where it was pouring down rain, we're losing 1-0, and I stayed for some reason.
So, I mean, 3 weeks in a row, Purdue was 44-7, 14-0, 56-0.
I mean, so I'm looking at – I just pulled up the stats. Purdue didn't, run any plays. You think if Ohio State scores –
stats after the year.
If Ohio State scores 56 points, you got to think, Purdue's going to have the ball a bunch because they're probably, Ohio State's scoring quickly. Purdue Etling threw the ball 29 times, and then, they rushed it, 22 times. So they ran 50 plays. How does that happen?
Baby, shoot fence. Then Iowa the next week at home, another loss, 38-14 at Penn State the following week, 45-21. And then I remember the senior day against Illinois very well because I was not feeling good that morning from going to a concert the night before at the Cactus. We lost to a horrible Tim Beckman coached Illinois team in freezing cold temperatures, 20-16.
Oh, I think I was at this game. I think I went.
It was awful.
Yeah.
And then we went down to Indiana the following week, and Etling put up a bazillion yards. It was over 400, but we lost 56-36 and ended the worst Purdue football season in history, at least in my opinion, with a 1-11 record.
Nowhere to go but up, right?
So how did you feel after that? So how did you feel after that IU game? Because you see Etling has 485, 4 touchdowns, and no picks. So you're like, okay, against an IU, no defense, but still.
I was excited about Etling's future.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, he's going to get the spring to get, that's going to be his team. He had a lot of young pieces. I mean, looking at the team, of course, Danny Etling led Purdue in passing, 149 completions on 267 attempts, 1,690 yards, 10 touchdowns, 7 picks. I was pretty excited about that compared to Henry's 81 completions on 152 attempts, 832 yards, 4 touchdowns, 6 picks. But then the rushing stats, you had Akeem Hunt led the team with 464 rushes on 123 carries. So that's not a ton of yards, 1 touchdown. Brandon Cottom had 45 carries, 154 yards, 1 touchdown. Dalen Dawkins, 32 carries, 115 yards. But then you had B.J. Knopf, 14 carries for 92 yards and a touchdown. Raheem Mostert, only 11 carries and 37 yards. But I don't remember if he got hurt that year or not.
I don't remember either.
I know he had a lot of fumbling problems.
Yeah, I don't remember if he got hurt. I know he just didn't play much. It was always it was kick returning though, right?
That was the thing. It's so many guys were getting used, but nobody was producing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then receiving. Can you tell me who led Purdue in receptions that year?
I'm looking at it, so I won't answer.
Justin
Sims.
I would have guessed 50 names before I even got to him.
41 catches, 340 yards.
50 names.
Yeah, I would have. I would not have remembered him.
No, I couldn't.
I would not have said Sims. Actually, I was looking at this and I would have been wrong. I would have said Yancey.
Yeah, Yancey had the most yards.
Yancey,
546.
He was only a freshman, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had the most yards.
I would have guessed him, but I don't think he played that much.
Receptions and touchdowns were Sins. I mean, you had Cameron Posey at 26 catches, 297 yards, 3 touchdowns. Danny Anthrop, 17 catches, 313 yards, 2 touchdowns. Raheem Mostert, 1 catch for 6 yards. Gary Bush, who'd been in the program for 3 years, 10 catches for 57 yards. Gabe Holmes, 9 catches for 69 yards. DeLapo McCarthy, 1 catch for 6 yards.
Patrick Beatty, 1 catch for 5 yards.
But that's what was infuriating looking back today. I guess these guys just didn't fit what they had in mind for the offense because a lot of those guys were contributors to the offense for 3 years straight, and then they get no time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Or maybe Darrell just knew they were going to suck real bad. And it's we're just going to throw the young guys into the fire and get them experience. I have no idea.
I don't think he thought that. I'm just going to, my guess. Just based on
did you look at defensive stats, Tanner?
I did. Evan, can you guess who led Purdue in tackles that year?
In tackles that year. I'm trying to remember who's on the defense.
He was
there's some talent. There should have the defense should have been.
Yeah. I remember it was on the team.
Name a safety, probably.
Yeah.
False this time.
I know.
Linebacker.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, think of a safety. Probably a fighter.
Yeah.
Probably a walk-on safety. But
Is it a linebacker?
Yeah,
It is.
Was Sean Robinson still on the team?
he was. Good guess, but Will Lucas, 73 total tackles. Anthony Brown was right behind him with 69. So there's your defensive back.
He had a touchdown.
But I mean, Anthony Brown. I mean, this defense. There's a lot of talent. I mean,
it's just mind-boggling because every season when that we're going to talk about, there was some talent. It just never even was close to producing.
But then you look at we haven't really talked about. I remember what we talked about with or reading or people saying about Etling was how bad the offensive line was for him.
It was bad.
Which it was. But then look at the defensive line. Bruce Gaston led the team in sacks with 3
sacks. Yep.
Which is nothing. So Purdue as a team had 15 sacks.
Yeah, they weren't getting
sacks
pass at all. So guys are getting time and just
dominated.
Your secondary can only hold them so long.
Yeah.
I mean, Ricardo Allen had 6 picks.
6 picks, exactly. He had a good season that year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He actually had a really good season on just an awful team. And that's what was – I think he had two, if not 3 of those in the bucket game.
Mm-hmm.
I hope
That
so.
was just frustrating. And it's nice to see him balling out still on Sunday.
Yeah. Anthony Brown had a touchdown today. Is that what you said? He's on this team. Yeah.
Touchdown. My dad today compared Ricardo Allen, even though his teams didn't have the same success at Purdue, but he compared Ricardo Allen to Etwan Moore when it comes to Purdue. A really solid player that we didn't really appreciate that much.
I can see
looking back, he was just solid in every aspect.
Yeah.
And they're both having good pro careers now.
Yeah.
So,
they both kind of found.
I never thought about that, but
both found their fit with teams that are birds and go.
Yep.
We'll go back to your question, Andrew, about what we felt going into the offseason. I think I definitely felt some optimism just because of Etling, but also because we were signing a kid, a small quarterback from Texas that kind of reminded us a lot of, another quarterback that we got from Texas with David Blau. We knew he was coming in. I think there was definitely some excitement in terms of hey, we can still recruit quarterbacks. Now it's just got to get the talent around them.
well, and I personally, and I wanted him to get a shot because I really enjoyed getting to know him when I was a manager. I was still rooting for Austin Appleby to get a shot.
Oh, yeah,
I thought he was a real talent too, and he was sitting behind Etling. So going into the next year, I was like, he might, if Etling doesn't play well, he might get a chance. And well, foreshadowing there. But going into 2014, Gold and Black has a cover here, says, looking forward, Hazell sees better days.
That hat.
2014 season was I was going to Hazell my hat for this podcast.
Oh, my God. You ruined.
I didn't want to ruin a hat doing that, but 2014 was a little better than 2013, and we'll get into that. But we got to talk about the recruiting class first. That was ranked 70th by 24/7 Sports and 71st by Rivals, but it was led by Jalen Robinson, who was a 4-star commit, of course, of the legacy, the son of the big dog. Chose Purdue over Notre Dame and some other big offers. I was really excited about him. He had some other guys. He had DJ Knox, Cole Herdman, Juwan Bentley, Tim Kaysen, Kirk Barron, David Blau, like you mentioned, Jalen Robinson, of course.
Just sucks that these guys didn't really, produce until
Gregory
they had a different coaching them. Yeah. That's just. I mean, who knows what they could have done for over 3 to 4 years if they had the right coach.
Yep. So going into the 2014 season, this cover says pressing the right buttons, and you have Steve Hunt, Ryan Russell, Danny Etling, Raheem Mostert on the cover for the preview.
I forgot how much I didn't like those jerseys looking back. Maybe just because it reminds me of – this is also when we started bringing back, this is when the Hazell years, it's also when we started doing different things with uniforms, like bringing in different colors, we had brought in new helmets and all that, but they just remind me of just awfulness.
Another cover here says Comfort Zone second year produces sharper spring. Then also have cover here out of the gate. Etling hopes to get Boilermakers off to fast start. And Purdue got off to a good start week 1. Darrell Hazell gets his second career win as Purdue's head coach and takes down PJ Fleck 43-34.
43 points, just like all the points we scored.
The previous high the year before Purdue scored was, oh my God, 24 twice. Nope, 36 against Indiana.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
still.
But they were also, how many games were they shut out last in 13? 3? 2 or 3?
2.
Ohio State, yeah.
And Michigan State back-to-back weeks, and they scored 7-1.
They scored 7 the week before.
7 twice, 10, 14 twice, 16. Oh, my God. So, and then I remember, all right, we're 1-0. We got Central Michigan coming in, who's usually a decent MAC school, but we can take care of them, get off the 2-0 start. Central Michigan waxed the floor with Purdue 38-17. I remember Etling throwing a couple pick sixes that game, and the defensive line for Central Michigan was just getting in there at ease. I'm like, how is this happening with the MAC school? And Darrell should know these MAC schools. I mean, he came from the MAC. He should know these schools well.
This was your last semester, wasn't it, Tan? This was your last semester.
Yes, it was. I was actually in Denver, Colorado watching that game, and it wasn't fun. But at least I was in Denver, so I didn't have to really worry about that. Because to that date, I didn't miss too many Purdue games. I missed the first 2 that year. So and then the following week, we played Notre Dame in a game that was supposed to be at Notre Dame, but it got moved to Lucas Oil. And this is, to date, the last time Purdue's played Notre Dame. Should change in the 2021 season. We're supposed to play at Notre Dame, so hopefully that holds up. But this was part of their Shamrock Series. Purdue was competitive for a half, but ended up losing 30-14. Wasn't really surprised, but frustrating to lose to Notre Dame, of course. Then we played Southern Illinois, who was ranked 16th in the FCS rankings, beat them 35-13. So we're sitting at 2-2 when conference season rolls around. Iowa comes into town, and we lose 24-10, which would be the game that Purdue made another quarterback switch, taking Danny Etling out and inserting Austin Appleby. But then the following week, this is what I would call the highest moment of the Darrell Hazell era at Purdue. Purdue goes to Champaign and beats Illinois 38-27 and looks pretty good doing so. The offense actually was clicking, getting some big plays from Akeem Hunt, Raheem Mostert, Danny Anthrop, Austin Appleby. The offense just looked totally better in a week.
Appleby had 76 rushing yards.
Yeah, the quarterbacks did a lot of RPOs.
Akeem Hunt had 30 attempts, 177 yards.
Yep. I remember watching that Wings, etc. Purdue alum and Bellator MMA fighter Matt Matrione was sitting at the table right next to me watching the game. So that was kind of cool.
Just to throw it out there that you dumped on me, Keontae Green had 51 yards that game. Just going to throw it out there. 17 yards per carry, 3 carries, 51 yards.
I'm proven wrong. I'm happily proven wrong. But the following week after Illinois, number 8 Michigan State came into town. I believe that's when the lime green striped helmets made their debut for the cancer awareness. Purdue was very competitive against.
I feel like Hazell played Michigan State pretty close.
He did
every year.
He did.
Like I remember sitting and watching a game in South Bend, and it might have been 13 when they lost like 14-0, and I'm like, gosh, like they had so many chances. All they had to do was score twice.
I remember coming out of this game, this team is turning the corner. Even though they lost 45-31, they're really competitive all the way to the end of the fourth quarter. And I was really optimistic going into Minnesota the next week. And this game was one of the most frustrating of the Hazell era, for me at least, is Purdue got off to a good start here, got off to a big lead, and then just choked. I remember very well there was a play. Purdue's about to get the ball back late in the fourth quarter after a failed third down by Minnesota. And Taylor Richards slams a guy 20 yards away from the play and gets a personal foul, giving Minnesota a first down. They end up scoring. And they end up winning the game 39-38. It's just like, oh, my God.
This was the game that made me feel like, okay, this is, I felt – it was a fun game. I didn't feel apathetic like I had for a lot of the other games where we were losing. But yeah, that was where it's the first time where I really had gotten frustrated at an ending, because before it was always, the game was over in the third quarter, so you really didn't have time to be mad. But this was, I remember that game. I remember watching it in my house by myself on campus, and just being like devastated, but also like, okay, it was nice to actually, feel pissed off about a game. But let's keep moving. Let's build on this.
Exactly, because it's a game Purdue should have won. But we're like, okay, we're starting to see some progression. And then the following week, we go to number 17, Nebraska. And this is where the season kind of turned once again, because Purdue's new offensive weapon that they're starting to find in Danny Anthrop tore his ACL. And Purdue ends up getting beat 35-14. Returns home the next week to play number 25. Wisconsin was competitive for about the first half. Then Wisconsin took away in the second half, 34-16. Then lost senior day against Northwestern, 38-14. We were all at this game together, but I don't remember too much about it besides just sloppy. And Trevor Simeon, who was Northwestern's quarterback, tore his ACL that game early on. I do recall that. And then Purdue travels to Indiana again, back-to-back years. I forget why that happened, but somehow the schedule.
It had to have been with the division changes.
I think it was with the legends and leaders going out the wayside because Nebraska joined, and so it was split the east to west. But Purdue lost a game they should have won 23-16. I remember Anthony Brown had a pick hit him right in the gut that would have sealed the game, and he dropped it. And then Indiana scored and won the game.
Indiana scored with 30 seconds left to take the lead.
Yep. So 3-9 season, 2014, 2-game improvement from 2013. But I remember feeling like, okay, this next year is going to be the year in 2015. Applebee's the quarterback. The offense yelled for a while until Anthrop got hurt. We got a lot of young players contributing. Things are going in the right direction. And once again, boy, was I wrong. But, looking at a few quick stats real quick. Austin Appleby had 144 completions on 272 attempts, 1,449 yards, 10 touchdowns, 11 picks. Etling was 89 for 166, 800 yards, 6 touchdowns, 5 picks. He would end up transferring to LSU after that season.
Which was mind-boggling, too. Yeah. The fact that he was going to – I mean, I guess they weren't really known for – I mean, they're being offensive power like they were this last year under Joe Burrow, but still, it was like, okay, he's going from bottom seller of the Big Ten to, the SEC and, a team that had, not that long ago won a national championship. So
I think that shows you that he had talent, but not the proper coaching or the proper tools around him.
Yeah.
Running the ball, Keem Hunt had a good year, 173 carries, 949 yards, 6 touchdowns. We finally saw our guy, Raheem Mostert, go out with a bang, 93 carries for 529 yards, 3 touchdowns. Austin Appleby actually had 61 carries for 198 yards and 5 touchdowns. And Danny Etling also had 3 touchdowns on the ground. Hunt led the team in receiving receptions with 48. Anthrop led them with yards, and it wasn't even close. He had 616 yards, and Hunt was the second closest, 293. Justin Sims at 257. Cameron Posey, Gabe Holmes both had just shy of 200. BJ Knopf got banged up this year, and that kind of ended his career. He only had 15 catches for 106 yards. Mostert had 116. D'Angelo Yancey had a bad sophomore year, 12 catches, 147 yards, but 3 touchdowns. And Delapa McCarthy, only 7 catches for 70 yards. So a guy that was a big part of the Hope offense only had 8 catches for 76 yards in 2 years under Darrell Hazell. So, but on defense, Juwan Bentley was the leading tackler as a freshman with 76. Frankie Williams was right behind him with 74. Jacob Polgo had 3.5 sacks. Landon Feiter had 5 interceptions. Frankie Williams 3. So, but before we get into the 2015 season, we got a few sponsors that we are thankful that are sponsoring the Boiler Breakdown podcast. First up, the Boiler Breakdown podcast is brought to you by Mad Mushroom. Serving Boilermakers since 1993, Mad Mushroom is located in the heart of West Lafayette and is known as the home of the original cheese sticks. But whenever I visit, I like to sit down and have an ice cold beer while trying out their latest pizza of the month. I saw today was National Sausage Pizza Day. So if you're hungry, you still got time. Order yourself a sausage pizza. So next time you're in town, stop by and tell them the Boiler Breakdown sent you for $5 off any order over $20. And also, any listener of the podcast can use the coupon code BREAK5. That's in all caps, BREAK5, to claim their discount online at madmushroom.com. Mad Mushroom, feed your head. And we, once again, are thrilled to have them on board for season 2 of the Boiler Breakdown podcast.
Absolutely.
So heading into the 2015 season, it's full steam ahead. Boilermakers confident coming out of spring camp. They signed a recruiting class that was ranked 67th by 24/7 Sports, 68th by Rivals. A lot of names I think Boilermaker fans will remember in this class, including Bryson Hopkins, Anthony Mahungo, Joe Shopper, Marcus Bailey, Torio Fuller, Markel Jones, Elijah Sindelar, Matt McCann, just to name a few. And here's the cover: heads out of state, Mr. Football honorees, highlight class 2015. You got Mr. Football, Markel Jones in Indiana. You got Mr. Football in Kentucky, Elijah Sindelar coming in. I remember being very excited about those two guys.
Absolutely.
And then you also had some veteran cornerbacks and Anthony Brown and Frankie Williams, the Tampa, Florida boys. That's a pretty cool cover there. Greetings from Tampa. Purdue's QBs bring swagger, and they definitely brought swagger since the moment they got on campus. So going in 2015 season, I was feeling more optimistic than I was going into 2014 season. Were you guys, if you remember correctly?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But like Andrew mentioned earlier within the comment about all eggs in one basket, that's all Darrell Hazell said going into the opening game at Marshall. All emphasis on the Marshall game. Marshall. It was a Sunday game on Labor Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
First play of the year, Appleby throws a pick six.
Yep.
Very first play.
Oh, God.
I remember this game being very back and forth, and DJ Knox kind of making his presence felt as a freshman running back during that game. A game that was maddening that Purdue ended up losing 41-31, and I remember just being pissed off. Just like, here we go again. I mean, literally, this was the focal point all offseason, and we blew it.
Yeah.
Turn around next week, gets Indiana State.
Yeah.
We took care of them this time, 38-14. I do remember Appleby threw a last-second Hail Mary to end the half to Dan Monteroso, I believe was his name, that he ended up transferring and actually playing college basketball for a D2 or D3 school in Ohio. But Purdue cruised, and then the next week, I remember a full Ross-Ade Stadium showing up for the Virginia Tech Hokies coming into town. A home and home that Purdue's got to finish up here. It's sometime on the future schedule. I don't know. I've seen it. I don't know if it's like 2023, 24, something like that. We have to make the trip out to Blacksburg, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But Purdue got beat pretty handily, 51-24.
I don't remember this game for whatever reason. I don't know if I missed it.
I remember Danny Wichiku having a scoop and score when Virginia Tech was about ready to score from the red zone, and he ran all the way early in the game. Place was going nuts, but I remember a lot of turnovers up on Purdue's end, and Virginia Tech was just so much more talented, and it showed. And so much so much better coach. I mean, Frank Beamer, just Beamer ball, man. But the following week, Bowling Green comes into town, and we lose 35-28. And I believe we made the switch to David Blau prior to this game.
Prior to this game?
I don't remember.
If not, it was during this game.
That is correct. Austin Appleby did not throw a pass in this game. Bilal Marshall went 1 for 1. 9 yards.
A recruit that came on as a quarterback and never really.
That was one of the 4. He was in that 4 quarterback class, right?
He was in the 2012 class.
Yeah.
Yep. With 2011 class. No, 2012 class. But I remember Purdue this game wore the acrylic gray uniforms, and their mascot or their face mask had all gray and then lime green on the very center. It was a unique look that they've never wore again since.
Shocker.
It was another frustrating MAC loss by a touchdown, 35-28. I just remember we had a really bad turnover towards the end of the game. I don't remember the exact details. I remember my mom went with me to this game, and
I'm just looking at the stats, and but it's like we only had 350 yards. No, 426 to 539. That was passing. Sorry, 350 to 400. Yeah, I don't know. Not remembering any of the game, but it doesn't look pretty.
And then the following week, I remember we were going to number 2 Michigan State, thinking we're going to get our brakes beaten off. And Purdue played one of their better games under Darrell Hazell and lost 24-21, and Markel Jones went off.
Darrell Hazell, collectively didn't beat Michigan State, but only lost by 3 touchdowns total.
Yeah, 17 points, I believe.
Total? Well, did he not play Michigan State next year in 16? Did he not make it that far? Or
They did not play Michigan State in 2016.
Perfect, yeah.
So in 2014, they lost by 14 points. 2013, they lost by 14. Okay, so they lost by 30.
Okay, 31 points in 3 games, but
it's a lot better than any other opponent he fared against.
The freaking MAC schools beat him by way more than that.
So I remember coming off the game like, okay, once again, like maybe when things are clicking, we just almost pulled the upset of the year off. So we're hosting Minnesota, who was very average at the time, at Ross-Ade, 41-13. I believe I left that game early. If not, I should have.
This is right when I was like, all right, I'm with you, Tanner. Like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna click. I mean, Ettling's in now. He's looking good as a freshman. Okay, and then it's middle of second quarter, and I'm like, gosh, I'm gonna go like take a walk outside and not watch this game.
And then we went to Wisconsin, of course, lost 24-7. And then I started thinking, we're not taking steps forward. Like I felt like we took a step forward from 2013-14. I think we're taking steps backwards all of a
Yes, I
sudden.
was about to say, like, when was it that you guys started to think this isn't working out at all? Like, we need to make a change at some point.
I think it was about that time.
Yeah.
Like right in the middle of that 15 season. Like I was all for I've always been for a college coach getting 4 years, or at least getting into his fourth year, but I was really starting to think this isn't going well.
No.
Like
I
was on the wall.
I was ready. I think 14. I think he needed his fourth year. I was ready to see what would happen in the fourth year.
Then we came back and hosted Nebraska. Now Nebraska was playing about their fifth string quarterback.
Riker Fife.
Yes. David Blau had a really good game. We won 55-45.
But
Tried to give it away.
they
Tried
almost
to give
came
it
back.
away.
they had a flurry of touchdowns at the end, if I remember right.
Yeah.
I was at this game with a buddy on Halloween. Yep. It was nobody there. It was we were
I did not go to this game, and I don't remember why. I literally think I was so mad I just didn't want to go. So I remember just watching
I didn't want to go. I was there with a friend who's a big Nebraska fan. He doesn't get to see Nebraska much, so I'm like, I'll go and I'll take the pain. And then I was pleasantly like, oh my gosh, Purdue scored 50 points.
I remember the footage of Hazell like diving into the players in the locker room after that game. Like did a running start in the hallway and jumped, and they were going nuts. I'm like, yeah, that guy's probably just thrilled right now because he's been, at least in his mind, putting in a lot of hard work. And finally something clicks for him 1 week.
I don't doubt that he was working
big
hard.
historical program, but no, I'm sure he was working hard. It didn't click. I mean, we
can get into that. We can talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about that in a little bit once. Okay, Evan, I want to go back and retrace my answer. This next week was when I said, okay, this isn't working.
Okay.
I was against Illinois. I remember taking a buddy of ours who was Illinois. I don't care what he says.
This was it, yeah.
Illinois ran all over Purdue, 48-14. I mean, just killed them.
Yeah.
Close.
Yeah,
that was the moment I'm like, it's time. Like,
was this when Wes Lunt got hurt? Didn't he get hurt against Purdue?
I think that was the year before in Champaign.
Because I see Wes Lunt, they had a backup end through 4 passes.
They did whatever they wanted.
They may have taken him out in the fourth quarter because the game was over.
Then Purdue traveled to number 24 Northwestern. I don't remember anything about this game. The score was 21-14, but I don't remember anything about that game. Or do I do the following week at number 6 Iowa? I do remember this game. We lost 40-20 because David Blau got knocked out with a concussion. It wasn't able to play the next week in the bucket game. So Austin Appleby had to come back in, start the bucket game, in which was back at Ross-Ade, and IU won their third straight bucket game, 54-36. But that made like how many bucket games in a row with a different starting quarterback? I mean,
right.
2015 it was Appleby. Actually, that was back to back because 2014 would have been Appleby. 2013 would have been Bentley. 2012 was Marv. 2011 was Turbush. 2010 was Henry. 2009 was Elliott. Then before that was Painter.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Appleby was the first Painter to start back-to-back buckets.
And then who was the backup for that game? Like they were redshirting Sindelar. They were redshirting him though, right? But that was before the 4 games, so they weren't going to burn his red shirt, right?
Oh, because he came in for a pass that game. He was a student body president one year.
Oh yes,
Aaron
Banks.
Yeah. I just remember it was like, okay, well, what happens if he gets hurt? Like he can't burn Sindelar's red shirt.
Bring him in for a pass because something like that happened, and they didn't want to.
I remember that was a discussion of. I remember I think it was you, Tanner. You and I talked with our friend Aaron Lynch, who's been on the podcast. We were like. I think Aaron was all for burning it and just playing it. I was like, you're not going to waste an entire year on one game.
I know you're going to be listening to this, so of course you were. I know he's the one that wanted us to do this podcast.
Yeah.
So 2015 ends up with a 2-10 record. I remember just thinking it might be time, even though I've always been a proponent and given somebody 4 years. But I remember having just no optimism going into 2016.
And wasn't this was the last year of Morgan Burke, correct?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So that was
when was Babinski hired at the beginning of the year, or was it in the fall?
I got a cover to bring that up here in a bit, but it was the very start of 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Actually, I think it was spring 2016, maybe. But passing stats, Blau led Purdue with 169 completions, 293 attempts, 1,574 yards, 10 touchdowns, 8 picks. Appleby also threw for over 1,000 yards, 1,260, but 8 touchdowns, 8 picks. And Austin Appleby would end up transferring after the season to Florida. So another Boiler QB goes to the SEC, which actually he and Danny Etling played against each other once, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Appleby's team won that game. So we had 2 quarterbacks go start in SEC, which always just didn't sit well.
And they both did pretty well.
Yeah.
So I looked at
Etling did still a practice squad quarterback right now in the NFL.
Etling did a lot better than I thought. His last year at LSU, he threw 16 touchdowns and 2 picks and started all 13 games. But Etling's actually Appleby's stats are fairly comparable actually to what they were at Purdue. I was surprised by that.
Yep.
His last year at Florida, they were 10 touchdowns, 7 picks compared to 8 touchdowns, 8 picks the year before, almost the same yardage. So, but yes, he did go play for an SEC school that is more nationally relevant than Purdue has been in a very, very ever.
Didn't they have a big win that year too? Might have been like against Tennessee or
big one against LSU that he threw a 90-yard touchdown.
Maybe that was it.
Yeah.
Against Etling, is that the one you just said?
I think so. I don't think I'm getting my facts.
This isn't a Florida podcast, Evan.
I know. Yep. But Markel Jones was awesome that year. 168 carries, 875 yards, but 10 touchdowns. DJ Knox also had 409 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then the other 2 leading rushers and touchdowns was Blau and Appleby, both at 4 each. Receiving, Danny Anthrop in his Purdue career, bouncing back with 57 catches, led the team in receptions. 430 yards, 2 touchdowns. D'Angelo Yancey had a bounce-back year with 48 catches, 700 yards, 5 touchdowns. Besides that, it's pretty much running backs. That was a common theme in the Shuba offense. Running backs were involved in the passing game heavily.
So, but was that because the offensive line was so bad that they had no time, so there was nothing to develop? And that's why it was kind of surprising how many yards Yancey had. So he had almost not quite double, I guess, what the second guy in yards was, but less catches. So he actually had big plays compared to what Anthrop.
Mm-hmm. Evan, tell me on defense who led the team in tackles.
Was that Raplugal? No.
I forgot about this guy.
I forgot about this guy as well.
Is he a defensive back?
Safety. I believe safety.
I think he played a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
5, I can't.
Leroy Clark. Evan Pamphil led the team in sacks with 4.
Okay.
Anthony Brown led him in picks with 4. But before we get into the 2016 season, I want to mention another sponsor of the Boiler Breakdown podcast, another new sponsor, and that's Webb's Family Pharmacy. Webb's Family Pharmacy is an independently owned community pharmacy with stores located in Rochester, Akron, and North Manchester, Indiana. Webb's is happy to announce that they are providing flu shots by appointment right in your car. Simply call to set up an appointment, and their friendly and caring staff will be happy to help you. For all of your high-quality medical equipment, supplies, and pharmacy services, check out www.webrx.com or give them a call today. Webb's Family Pharmacy, the professional pharmacy with a hometown touch. And we are, once again, very happy to have them on board. And, like Evan mentioned last week, Boiler owned.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So we're going into the 2016 season. Here's the previous. It's time to make a stand. And you got Juwan Bentley, Jacob Pogel, D'Angelo Yancey, and Markel Jones on the cover. Bentley's holding Purdue Peach Sledgehammer there.
It's a pretty good core.
Yeah, there's some talent there. The big
Something
news
to build on
going into the season was a new athletic director, Mike Bobinski. hired
Something that
from
we had
Georgia
not
Tech.
really experienced, really like that we could remember, because obviously Morgan Burke was, pretty much there our entire lifetime, at least up until that point.
Mike Bobinski came from, like I said, Georgia Tech, where Paul Johnson was the football coach. He did hire Josh Pastner for the basketball job. Previously to that, he was at Xavier, who doesn't have a football program, but of course a very successful basketball program. So he had the tools of the trade in both basketball and football.
I believe he played baseball at Notre Dame, so he had played collegiate sports, which was cool. Shout out to Steve Dodson there for the
Very
comment.
tough.
Yes,
We are ready to get through these last 6 games
on
Darrell
Facebook.
Hazell.
Yes, we're gonna fly through this because.
But I guess before we move on, I guess what do you guys remember about hiring Bobinski?
Very little.
I was just excited for a change. I think I
Yeah.
thought Morgan did a great job as far as the non-revenue sports. I think he did wonders for.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, for
Women's golf. Yeah.
the facilities like Alexander Field, new soccer folk field, softball stadium, the golf courses. I mean, great golf courses there at Purdue. You're going to be, and Andrew knows it's probably tough to find 2 really high quality collegiate golf courses like that, at least in the Midwest. But I thought it was time for a fresh start with somebody else. So
It kind of felt. Oh, go for it, Webby. Sorry.
No, go for it.
I was kind of what you said there, Tanner. Like to add to it, stale. Kind of like at the end of Tiller, to where it was just kind of time for something different.
Yep, he'd been there for. I mean, he was the 3rd longest tenured AD, I believe, in Division I at the time. So, but I knew Darrell was on a short leash. I think we all knew that. I mean, Bobinski pretty much said he was going to see how it went, but you could kind of tell his gears were already moving to who do I want to lead?
Get his guy. Yeah.
He wanted his own guy. Yeah. He didn't want Morgan's guy. So Darrell's last final recruiting class, which actually Braum ended up, I guess Braum ended up signing this class technically, maybe.
Yeah, he did. He
but
would have, yeah.
It was ranked 80th for 24/7 Sports and 73rd on Rivals. Had a few guys that are still contributing right now. Samisi, oh goodness,
Fashiki, is that what you're talking about? Somebody, yeah,
who will be a role on Purdue's defense this year in 2020. Brian Linkford Johnson, I had forgotten about him. Speedy running back that ended up leaving Purdue, and I'm not sure where he is. Grant Hermans, Simeon Smiley, Jared Sparks, Jackson Anthrop that just found out that Jackson hurt his shoulder, had surgery, hoping to get him back midseason this year. We're going to see on that. Lorenzo Neal, Austin Larkin, J.D. Dellinger, Anthony Watts, and Navon Mosley. So a lot of names still on the Boilermaker team right now. 2016 season starts off David Blough's quarterback, and actually David would end up starting every game this year, which was the first time since Joey Elliott did that in 2009, and Purdue hasn't had that since. Maybe they will in 2020. Who knows? We'll talk about that here in a bit. But starts off beating Eastern Kentucky 45-24. Not much else to say about that. Then Cincinnati comes into Ross-Ade for the finish up the home and home. Lost 38-20. I remember just a ton of turnovers in this game. Then Nevada comes into Ross-Ade to start a home and home, which we're never speaking of the trip to Reno ever again. But they did get a win over Bill Polian's son on this day, 24-14. And then I'll never forget this next game at Maryland, which Purdue got humiliated 50-7, because my dad, who's been a lifelong Purdue fan and always gives coaches the benefit of the doubt, said it's time for him to go. That was his words after this game. And I remember Purdue had a right tackle. His name was Neal.
Jalen Neal.
I hope he's not listening to this podcast. He was the worst offensive lineman I'd ever seen in my life. That game against Maryland, he led at least 5 sacks and didn't touch the guy. Didn't even put his hands on him. He was one that left pretty quick when Braum got on, because I bet Braum looked at the tapes like, this dude couldn't put an AIA program. He was not good. Not good. In that, I mean, just got killed at Maryland. And I think everybody thought maybe the firing was coming. But the Purdue held off. They went to Illinois, and Purdue won 34-31 in overtime against Lovie Smith.
Yes, sir.
I remember the freezing happening here, where Purdue froze Illinois' kicker. He misses a kick. And then I think Lovie froze Dellinger 3 times before JD made the.
I thought it was actually.
It was vice versa.
I want to say Hazel
Okay.
called all 3 timeouts like in a row or something like that. Like it was something just stupid, but it worked.
I remember being in Denver, Colorado for this game too. So
I was up at my grandma's house. Yeah.
So Hazel gets the win. So Purdue's 3-2 at the time. They actually have a winning record. I do remember the following week is homecoming against Iowa. Purdue loses 49-35 in a game that was a lot closer than the score indicated. I remember tweeting Mike Babinski and Mitch Daniels at halftime saying, "It's time," all caps, tag them both. That's all I said. In the following day, Darrell Hazell was fired as Purdue's head coach, even though their record was 3-3 at the time. And then Jared Parker would take over. Purdue went at number 8, Nebraska, lost 27-14, even though they hung in there for a while. Hosted number 24, Penn State, in a game that was close at half, but it ended up being 62-24. With 2 Minnesota, lost 44-31. Hosted Northwestern, I left this game early, got killed 45-17. Hosted number 6, Wisconsin. I left this game early, and Drew Brees was in town for this game. They were interviewing him on TV about finding the right coach, blah, 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 blah. We lost 49-20. Then we're at Indiana, lose a heartbreaker 26-24 for Indiana's 4th straight bucket win, which was like the first time that happened since like World War I or II. I think it was World War II, yeah. And I remember Bob Kravitz saying that PJ Fleck was going to be the Boilermakers' next head coach, but Bobby Boy was wrong. Surprise, surprise there. And Purdue ended up hiring Jeff Brom, which we will talk about hopefully next week. We'll finish up the eras before we start getting into the actual talk about the season coming up. Looking back on a few stats real quick. Blau led Purdue in passing, of course. Had 3,352 yards, 25 touchdowns, but 21 interceptions. I believe that led the country.
Yep.
Elijah Sindelar got some mop-up duty, 14 for 32, 14 completions on 32 attempts, 165 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 picks.
If I remember this correctly, this was the wrong year. Was this his first action as quarterback, really?
Yes,
like
he was a red shirt.
Did not look good. Right. I remember playing like,
but it was just like, yeah. It was hard thinking back. That
yeah.
Harder in 2017.
It's crazy what a coach can do.
Yep. Markel Jones, 616 yards, led them in rushing with 4 touchdowns. But like I said, Langford Johnson had 48 carries for 314 yards, 2 touchdowns. Richie Worship, 35 carries for 133 yards, 2 touchdowns. D'Angelo Yancey had a great year, 49 catches, 951 yards, 10 touchdowns. That led him to get drafted by the Green Bay Packers.
Surprised.
Marshall finally found his fitting that year with 40 catches, 477 yards, 3 touchdowns. Cameron Posey had 356 yards, 3 touchdowns. So those 2 guys went out with a good note. Cole Herdman, 35 catches, 344 yards, 3 touchdowns. A young freshman named Bryson Hopkins, 10 catches, 183 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So on defense, Marcus Bailey, who was coming off an ACL tear, led the team in tackles with 97. Evan Pamphil and Jalen Robinson led the team tied with 4 sacks. And Marcus Bailey led the team with 4 interceptions. And that's the Darrell Hazell era. 9-33 at Purdue after being 16-10 at Kent State, only having 2 years of head coaching experience when Purdue hired him.
Oh boy. Joke.
We never have to go through that again.
Oh my God, that was awful.
But on a bright note, Rondell Moore's back.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
That was. Did you guys, looking back? I mean, obviously, because he announced he was opting out before anything happened with the Big Ten. Did you guys, when the Big Ten announcement was coming back, what was your guys' thought? Did you think he was going to come back at all, or what was your?
I wasn't too optimistic.
I did not.
I thought there was no way in hell he's coming back.
I figured he was just fully NFL draft, which I totally get. But I think he's a pretty competitive guy, and he wants to kind of show. And go out, have a good year, and improve his draft stock. I don't know where he was. I know some people had him top 10. I think some people had him like late first round. So maybe it's across the board. It would have been a weird year. It would have been year out being any game time, or 2 years basically when the draft came around. So
I do remember. I knew he was taking online classes, but he was going to do that anyway. So I was like, that's not anything. But I do remember when Minnesota's Rashad Bateman was trying to get back in, even though he had hired an agent. I thought, okay, So that's one guy that him and Rondell are right neck and neck on a lot of mock drafts. I'm like, if he comes back and rips it up and Rondell sits out, that might not look good for Rondell's draft test, even though I still believe he's got to completely tear it up at the combine. It's gonna be a joke, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But then we kind of on Golden Black started hearing some rumors that there might be something to this. And then he announces live at 4:40 Eastern time on ESPN2 that he's coming back, wants to prove to the nation that he's the best wide receiver. I mean, what else can you say? I'm just excited we get to watch him for 9 more games. Even though we can't be there in person, unfortunately. But
hey, but your cutout can for $55.
Or you can get an autograph for $95.
Yeah.
Only 200 of those are autographed.
Yeah.
Autographed by who?
Jeff Brom.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So Purdue just announced that today, I believe.
I saw the 55. I didn't see the autograph one.
So I wanted to get a boiler breakdown cut out, but there's no businesses or
no advertising
sponsorships.
Gain it, because I just want to put our logo right there.
Well, you could just do you, Tanner, with the shirt on. Boiler and with your damn. It looks like a Purdue. It looks like a Purdue logo.
Fly. I gotta get compliance next. But, Purdue had scrimmage over the weekend. I don't know about you guys, but reading up on the scrimmage, I thought Jeff Brom sounded more optimistic and excited going into the season than he has at Purdue yet about his team.
Sounds like. Yeah, go for it.
It's just which me, I don't know if that's just because of just everything that's happened. It's just like we're just happy to be freaking playing at this point. Or I mean, he's a guy who's usually pretty critical, regardless of how good or bad we are. So it was definitely different to hear that type of tone from him after a scrimmage.
I think it's the fact that it sounded like they have like 9 or 10 offensive linemen that are ready to play. It sounds like that legitimately can be a Big Ten offensive line and have 2 deeps, and not like, oh crap, we have 4, maybe 5 that if one guy goes down, look out. Now it sounds like the depth's there, and like we've been saying, I mean, get his guys. It takes some time for the offensive linemen to develop from high school. It's a big change. Well, need a couple years in the weight room.
During the whole podcast tonight, Hazell's offensive lines weren't good, so he led the cupboard pretty bare when Brom came in.
Yeah.
And I had to chuckle. We did have a Facebook comment the other day, somebody's kind of ripping Jeff Brom and like, look what Fleck's done right away at Minnesota. I'm like, Fleck took over a 9-4 team. That Tracy Claeys got bullied to get into getting fired pretty much. I mean, he had him 9-4, and Jeff Brom inherited a dumpster fire that had won 9 games in 4 years and left him nothing, to where Hazell actually took over a team that had made back-to-back bowl games. I mean, it was very average and mediocre, but he had talent to at least be competitive, and he turned them into 1-11 pretty fast with the different teams. So like you said, it's nice to see Brom's offensive line coming together.
Sounds like it. Hopefully, I mean, I think they definitely played better, I think, toward the end of the season last year. So, hopefully now the depth of those redshirt freshmen, redshirt sophomores are ready to go.
100% here.
Yep, Steve Dotson on Facebook here, one of our viewers, said he's excited to see Lorenzo Neal, and Absolutely. It's been a long time. It's been since the Bucket game in 2018 that we saw Lorenzo Neal suit up for the black and gold, and he participated in the scrimmage. He's got to get in, sounds like, shape a little bit, but
because it's been so long since he's played a game. But
I'm excited.
Probably in practice too.
That's always been even when he was playing. I remember, because he's a big guy.
He's a big boy.
And for him to go full 100%, it's a lot of energy, a lot of effort. So it's like, how do you manage the snaps so you get the absolute best out of him? Get him going 100%.
Snaps got to be more interesting than ever this year, because you can play whoever the hell you want this year, and everybody can come back next year if they want, which I just think is mind-blowing, because I understood at first when it was like 6 games, but you're playing 9 games. That's pretty close to a full season.
Yeah, and you may play 10 assuming bowls happen.
So scholarship numbers are going to be just skewed and way out there, because I doubt Purdue will have any seniors come back. They don't have many seniors, and that's one thing. This Purdue team is young. But maybe
you don't see a very big recruiting class right now too, because we don't need the numbers like we had in the past.
So, do you think that helps or hurts Purdue? Because I could kind of see it both ways. I mean, you get because you get the development, you get the guys for one more year. So, like Grant Hermans, for example, I know he's a senior who hopefully is going to be playing on Sundays. But say he doesn't have a great year or decides like, no, I want one more
Or
year in
gets
college,
injured, unfortunately, or something.
yeah, I mean, he's got one more year, so then like that's great. Like our starting left tackle, I'd keep him. I'd absolutely take him next year. I mean, this year and next year, or but then also I could see it with recruiting, kind of helping recruiting as well, because then maybe not. I don't know, because I don't think like the SEC guys, like the top schools, the top recruits, those guys aren't going to come back most likely. So the freshmen that would go there, it's not like they're going to be overly competitive. It's going to just the roster's going to be stacked basically for everybody's teams should be stacked. It feels like for 4 or 5 the next 4 years after. And
I'm glad Purdue's not signing a big class for 2021 because we would be in more trouble if so, especially at wide receiver, because we have a ton of young wide receivers. You can't redshirt any of them right now. No. I mean, there's no advantage to because they all are going to come in as freshmen next year.
Yeah.
So they're all going to play probably. I mean, probably see a lot of them, which would be awesome.
Which the depth at wide receiver and the talent's just I just get excited just thinking about it. I mean, that's why I feel terrible for Jackson Anthrop, but he can come back next year if he wants to. Yeah. But I feel terrible for him, but we have so many other guys that can slip right in there compared to years past. I'm not too worried about it, but I feel bad for him because he's a Boilermaker through and through and gives it his all, even through injuries. So, but as much excitement that there is on the offensive side of the ball, and especially the QB race, which sounds like it's probably between Jack Plummer and Aiden O'Connell. Austin Burton's a close third, it sounds like, which isn't too much of a surprise. I still think Jack Plummer will win the job week 1 against Iowa. But I'm excited for the defense side of the ball, too. I don't think a lot of people are – I mean, there's a lot of young talent there. A new coordinator, Bob Diaco, which I'm not sure what the –
Yeah, we have no idea what the hell he's going to throw out there. We just got word that DJ Johnson, the transfer from Iowa, just got I think the
NCAA
wait on the Big Ten.
Yeah, the Big Ten will. I wasn't worried about the Big Ten. I was more worried about the NCAA.
I don't know. Kevin Warren's made some shaky decisions.
That is true.
So let's not count it yet, but I mean, this could be secondary we've had in a long time.
I'm excited to see linebackers just because there's so much kind of unknown there. I mean, Derek Barnes moving back to linebacker, and then the JUCO just sounds
Mitchell,
who's massive. He's like 6'3", like 275, and he they've seen pictures and videos of him out there. It looks like he's a fun guy out there, always like dancing. He is a cut.
Getting Neil back in return to form, and you got Karlaftis, who's got another year experience. Yeah. Getting excited. Hey, we're less than 2 weeks away, boys.
Did anybody put money on Rondell Moore for Heisman? Because I bet his odds were pretty high. Oh, maybe you probably got him at a bad time then before he opted out.
After last season, I put $1 on it to win $51, but I did put some money on Purdue to win the Big Ten, not the West, the Big Ten. And if they do, I'm just gonna say I will be running. I'll be streaking around my neighborhood. A pretty rich guy. So richer, I guess, not rich, but richer. So, but well, hopefully next week we can find some time to bring you a Jeff Brom podcast, which we'll talk about 2017 through now, and then starting the next week it'll be game week, and we'll start.
Did you see? I saw this. There's a potential rumor that I don't know how legitimate that Purdue Iowa could be a Friday night game.
I think we can tomorrow or Tuesday. Yep.
Yeah.
They should be announcing the times.
That would be awesome to not have to wait. I would love to not wait one extra.
Bring it on. I would love to be Friday night, assuming we play well and win, because the nation will watch that game. And if we can show some explosive offense again and score some points to the recruits around the nation.
Have Rondell Moore reemerge and say, hey, don't forget about me. It's been a year, but I'm back.
And we'll talk about this more in 2 weeks when we get to game week. But just like it is every year, it's important for a Brom team to finally get off to a good start this year, because the Big Ten did Purdue a favor this year with the schedule, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, no Michigan, and you get Rutgers. And
Rutgers and IU is the crossover East games?
Yeah. They could have got a lot worse.
Doesn't get much better than that.
So they kind of got a favor to them. So, I mean, the week 3 at Wisconsin will be tough, but Wisconsin just lost their quarterback for Jack Cohn for maybe the season, broke his foot. So,
we just need to keep
Jeff. Practice. He broke his foot.
Yeah,
they do have
earlier this week. Yeah,
a freshman, Army All-American freshman that will step in now, but he's a freshman. So,
They're going to hand the ball off
They're gonna
50
hand the ball off.
times.
Yeah, we know what they're gonna
So
do.
we just need Lorenzo Neal still to be healthy and clogging up the middle.
And hey, whoever scores the most point wins. So get the ball to Rondell or David Bell or Malik Carr,
Milton Wright,
Milton
TJ
Wright,
Sheffield,
Marshawn Rice, TJ Sheffield,
the tight end, Payne Durham, anybody. Yeah.
Payne Durham, Kyle Billadell, Garrett Miller.
I know we've talked about this on our
I haven't even said the running backs yet.
I feel like a receiver that everybody is forgetting about is Milton Wright.
Yep.
Everybody's talking about Rondale, David Bell. Obviously Marcellus Moore.
Rightfully so, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Rightfully so. Yeah.
I know one I forget about is Ahmad Anderson.
Yeah.
He's going to step in now with he'll probably just step right into Jackson's role.
Or
Unless
TJ.
Is that the four? You think Milton Wright? Are those gonna be the starting? The
I
3,
would say
4.
week 1, yeah.
Bell, Moore, Anderson, and Wright.
Yeah, I would think so for week 1, but I think we'll see a ton of guys out there, which is great. Great to have that depth because I hate to say this, but of all the wide receivers on the roster, I don't think they're all going to be at Purdue their whole time.
No.
I think we'll see some leave due to lack of playing time, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're throwing the ball 50 times a game and they're rotating wide receivers, then that's plenty to go around.
We have some nice stable running backs too, though, right now with King Doru and
Murphy,
Horvath, yeah, and Tyreek Murphy Jr. So it's gonna be
Hewitt,
fun, guys.
the other one that came in
Yeah,
with
Dylan
King
Hewitt.
Doru. Yeah.
I'm excited. I mean, I know it's going to be different, but I've been just getting anxious watching these other college football games that have been pretty close and entertaining. And I'm like, I want to watch Big Ten and Purdue. Like, come on. So getting close. But before we wrap things up, I got to mention the third and final sponsor of the Boiler Breakdown. And they are a sponsor once again, as they were sponsors in season 1 of the podcast. And that's Strofe Landscaping Nurseries. Strofe Landscaping has been in business for over 50 years and can handle all of your landscaping needs, including landscape design, maintenance, irrigation, hardscaping, fall cleanup, and they are licensed lawn applicators. So contact them today for all your landscaping needs at 574-223-2769. Strofe Landscaping Design, with you in mind. And we thank them once again for being a recurring sponsor of the Boiler Breakdown podcast.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up for the week?
Glad we got this one over with because I was
Yeah.
not looking forward to this one.
I'm glad Andrew had the idea of talking about some current football to kind of
Yes,
wrap up on a
yes.
positive note.
Yep.
Because
Glad we finally have something to hopefully look forward to.
it's been a long time since we've talked about live Purdue sports.
Less than 2 weeks.
Long time.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
we didn't get a chance to
March.
talk about Big Ten. We didn't get a chance to talk about the Big Ten tournament. We thought we were previewing it, but never got to really cover it.
Nope.
Um,
Yeah, we covered that Rutgers loss, I guess.
Let's not talk about that.
Missed that podcast. I remember Aaron Lynch filled in for that one. So,
Yeah.
so it's been a while, but it'll be fun.
Yeah.
I look back at the Hazell era, just it's kind of a blur. I try to forget about it.
Mhm.
But I just kind of chucked to myself as Morgan Burke in that when in the announcement of firing Danny Hope, like haven't been competitive enough. Need to commit football better. You know, it's like just be careful what you wish for. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's
Oh yeah.
not always green on the other side, because I think we were already thinking we could make the next jump, and we thought we did with hiring Darrell Hazell, and it was just a complete backfire and dumpster fire and
Well,
Purdue down.
I mean, really, it was the same kind of for both Tiller and Hope. It was we you know, with definitely with Tiller, it was kind of we're related to the Nebraska Bo Pelini mindset. Not as much. We weren't that good consistently, but you know, they were winning 8-9 games a year, and that wasn't
Not
enough.
good enough.
Not good enough. And now you've got the, you know, God's gift to Big Ten football, which is Scott Frost and that dumpster fire. And we're kind of the same way with Tiller. Was, hey, 7-8 wins is just not cutting it. We need to take the next step. And then we took a step back with Hope, and it was, hey, 5-6 wins is not enough. We need to take a step forward, and then we were doing 3 wins. So
1 year of 3 wins.
yeah,
2 years of 3 with 2 wins. 2016, I guess, even though he got fired halfway through. But
He wasn't going to win another game in 16, Tanner.
no, I know he wasn't. They probably would have got beat worse than they did in some of the outcomes. So
Yes.
But and Darrell today, he went on to be a wide receivers coach for the Minnesota Vikings for 1 year, and I don't believe is coaching anywhere in football right now. So I would be very surprised if he got a head coaching job anywhere else.
Probably taking some credit for Purdue's success the last couple of years with some of his players.
Guarantee it. Which he landed some decent recruits, but he didn't recruit as good as I thought he was going to. But who would want to come play for that product on the field? So, yeah. Yep. So that's all I got to say about that. And I'm
done.
Glad we are done with this one. We can move on to the Jeff Brom podcast next, and then into the season. And we got some fun stuff coming up. So
we did have one more comment there, Tan. I don't know the answer to this, but
any news about basketball attendance? Not that I know of.
I haven't heard. I don't think so. I don't know if they made a decision. It's still far out.
If you're not subscribed,
probably still.
Steve, if you're not subscribed to Gold and Black Illustrated, I suggest you do so, because that'll probably be where you'll find some of the information first. Is for
all of them on Twitter.
Yeah.
If you have Twitter.
There's not going to be any fans at football, right?
Correct.
So far, at least.
Yeah. But it is frustrating, I got to say, to watch these other conference schools letting in a certain percentage. In their space, at least in some places, they're spaced out pretty well. I mean, Notre Dame in our own state is allowing over 10,000, and it looks just a lot better than empty.
Yeah, and you see, like, I think it was Texas A&M had their students. Their students were all grouped together, but I can get that because it's the students. They're on campus together. Whatever. I think you should at least let like students and staff in. Students, parents or family of players, and staff of the university. I think that I would be fine with that. I don't care if I can't go to a game, but I think there's got to be something.
I mean, I was telling somebody the other day that this is going to be the first season I haven't been to a Purdue football game since 1999. Yeah, but it is what it is. I don't care. I would love it for the students to go. You only be in college 4 years, one time in your life.
4.5 for some of us.
Well, yeah, I went 4.5. Yes, should just made it 5 and a complete victory lap.
Yeah, one more. That would have been one more football season or basketball season.
It would have been a fun one too.
Yeah,
that's what I did. My last semester, I'd bought basketball season tickets because it started in my last semester, so I got to sit in the student section as a graduate for that last. Yeah, I know.
But the weird thing about the student situation in Big Ten, I believe all the Big Ten students, once Thanksgiving hits, they aren't bringing their students.
That's true. I forgot about
they
that.
only get to go to like a couple games, but still,
it's still
part of your college experience. I mean, no tailgating, we get that, but to answer your question, Steve, I would be surprised if they allow people to come to basketball games.
Which that's going to be.
It will be weirder than football. Yeah. I don't even imagine Purdue against IU and Mackey with no fans.
No.
And that is when we got time to talk basketball later, but oh boy, this for the Purdue team without fans and Mackey, it could be a long season. Because that's Purdue's biggest advantage is their home court advantage in basketball. Mm-hmm. Without fans is not going to be safe. So, but we'll see. So, thanks for listening and watching and getting through this one with us. We love you all and Boiler Breakdown podcast land. So
we did actually last second. If you we had a last comment here. It was from Travis Miller. He said the third year was the roughest. First year was okay. It's a complete teardown. Fine. Year 2 was progress would be Illinois. Played Michigan State close and had that Minnesota game. True. And year 3 was really god awful, getting blown out at home against 4, 6, and 6 teams.
Yep, it's nail on the head. That's why he runs Hammer Rails. So was one of the contributors for Hammer Rails. So I mean, yeah, just ugly football to look back and talk about. And I'm glad we hopefully don't have to say his name too many more times on the podcast going forward.
Nope.
With that said, we're going to wrap things up, and we'll see you here within the next week. Like always, boiler up, hammer down.